on your computer. And then we'll figure out how to get it to me later.
Okay. It should be recorded.
I never posted last week's meeting. I've got to do that today.
Yes,
So, Ron, you were saying you're starting your Phrancko class tomorrow?
that's right. And I'm excited because the students I have are experienced, very skilled knitters, and are looking to apply some knitting challenges for themselves onto the Phrancko. So we're going to be going from making design ideas and sketches through planning out how to incorporate that into the Phrancko program to get the kind of pattern you need to include the stitch patterns you want and the construction that you want. So that all begins tomorrow, and I'm very excited.
That's cool. What kind of yarn do they design? All kinds? Ooh. Sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, yes. Yeah. One student was just in, and she got some Camper by Kilborn Woolens, which is a fingering weight tweed that she'll be making a stranded color knit because she wants it specifically to steek hers.
Wow.
Just as a personal challenge. So all she knows going in is she wants her sweater to be steeked and to have stranded color work. So we'll be working through
hardly anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like,
right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So whip it over.
It's exciting. I put together a little slideshow that I would love to share for you if you have a minute.
Sure.
Definitely.
Let's see.
And then I didn't get that this meeting was being recorded. Is there a way to check?
You did.
We got the message at the beginning. I think now it's just being recorded, but by two people.
Yeah.
When I came back, I had to start the recording again. And then I asked Kathy to record it because mine's all messed up. It keeps freezing, and then everybody goes away and turns black.
So as long as it doesn't need to ask again.
I'm recording it. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So here, I'm gonna share my screen really quick and play this. I hope Frank can see it. Let's see. There it is. Sure.
Oh, look at that. That's nice.
Oh, beautiful.
Yes.
Oh, that's nice.
There you go. That's nice.
That's
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
My chronological history of Phrankkos.
That's a lot of work.
That is way cool.
That's every sweater I've made, except
Wow.
Except for that one.
How impressive.
So just as a demonstration of the versatility
Of the Phrancko.
So how many people are in your class, Ron?
3
Excellent.
should be enough.
Yes.
Which I'm glad. I just have, like I said, pretty advanced, skilled knitters who are looking for an opportunity to challenge themselves and really get creative, which is the kind of stuff that I thrive on. So I'm looking forward to the process. We've got 5 weeks together.
Ron, were you going to have them do that little Phrancko swatch that you did that kind of had all the different kind of the things that you do have to do for a Phrancko, of how you pick up on
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Oh,
I will
that's good.
present that to them. I'm confident that they already have all the skills involved, but we'll work through it just as a practice and a sort of a review. The first couple weeks will be all about, swatching, and
Design.
they've done their yarn
Yeah.
selection because they have an idea of what they wanted already. So that frees us up to talk a lot about swatching for the hand of your fabric or trying out stitch patterns. And so that should be, I think it'll be a lot of fun. So I'll keep you posted, and I hope I can get the students in the class to drop it on the meetings to share sometimes, or maybe they'll just let me share photographs and updates.
It sounds like they're getting a lot of kind of design stuff too, and using the Phrancko as a springboard for, here's how you can design whatever you want.
That's exactly the goal.
Very cool.
To use the Phrancko framework and pattern generator to get exactly the result that you want, which could be as simple as just, a stockinette sweater that fits, or really a very carefully designed and elaborate piece. So we'll see where we get to, but it's exciting.
Yeah, that is fun.
And heaven knows I've tried out a lot of things with the pattern so far.
Yes, you hold the record.
For example, this yarn that I showed off last week, which is the silk and linen blend, I had to test a lot of cast-ons to get one that would properly hold the structure of the shoulders, because it's knit up on large needles for the fabric, because I want to be able to use this as like a summertime top.
Right.
So just casting on with these needles, even with the long-tailed cast on, would not have given it enough structure. So I wound up with, you see that right there?
Yes.
That's just a crocheted cast on.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I crocheted a chain of the correct length and picked up the stitches in it, and the back and shoulders.
Do you know how to spotlight him,
Oh,
Kathy?
Yes.
If you spotlight him, it'll be recorded with spotlighted.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
so the back neck has no shaping. It's all one rectangular piece, and it all went into this crocheted cast on. I just made a chain with the appropriate stitch count and picked up the stitches in it, and now that I can be secure that the back, neck, and shoulders aren't going to slip off my shoulders while I wear it.
I don't know much about that different cast on, but is that what they call the provisional cast on?
It is structurally identical to the provisional cast on, except that it's not provisional. It's meant to stay in the work.
Oh, you're gonna leave it in the work. Okay.
Yes, it will
Yeah,
stay in the
okay.
work. The crochet chain does not stretch, or only marginally, and that's the effect I needed. So yeah, you do a crocheted cast on exactly the same, or this crocheted cast on exactly the same way as the provisional cast on. You just leave it in the work.
You don't pull it.
Yeah, so you used it for structure.
Yes,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I thank you.
Well, I mean, how many people would think of that?
At least one. No,
You.
many.
I
Only
know.
Ron. Only Ron.
Well, hey.
An integer greater than 0.
And less than 2.
I doubt that. But that's why it's so useful to have just like a big bank of different knitting techniques, just picking things up here and there, because you never know when it's going to be useful. You decide to knit a giant captain-sized top out of silk and linen on oversized needles, and it occurs to me, this will not stay on if I don't do something about the neck and shoulders. This will just look. And I could do like very dramatic, like let me slip into something more comfortable things, like Mae West style things, but I would like to do it. and not just like dramatically drop it to the floor.
So can you say some more about the yarn? How much silk and how much linen and who makes it?
It is the yarn is called Guild. It is made by Oink Pigments. It is 65% silk and 35% linen. And
Okay.
it is, I mean, it's just gorgeous. This is,
Yeah.
I mean, it's very open here, clearly, but it's, I wish you could tell under this light. It's got the luster you would expect from silk. Got a beautiful drape and hand, even when it's knit at its normal gauge.
Yeah. And it's gonna, does it puff up a little bit when you block it?
The bloom is limited.
Okay.
There is a bit, but not terribly. And it tends to go, it goes back down after blocking. Because to get this sweater swatch, I had to make a dressed swatch, meaning I had to hang it to get the gauge. So the stitches elongate, right, under its own weight. So I wanted to make sure it fit under those conditions. So rather than blocking it out nicely, I hung it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Block. And it's very funny instructions. It's like work, the sleeve increases are work and increase every other row for 14 rows, and then 5, and then 14 every other row again. So it's got that palindromic shape, but barely. But it's because the stitch gauge is so narrow compared to a very long row gauge. But the pattern generator handled that math and these measurements just fine, even at this rather unusual gauge.
What size needles are you using, Ron?
US 9s.
Okay.
Now, I've not knit silk, but I would think silk doesn't have a lot of stretch, right? As none, right?
No.
And linen doesn't either.
And linen doesn't either.
But the fabric it makes does.
Yeah.
Right.
The structure of knitting, it stretches forever.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. That is so cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the finished object. So it just kind of, I don't know, the colors are sort of watercolory, impressionisty, outside of my normal wheelhouse, but we'll see how the finished object looks.
Nice.
This colorway that I'm working with now is actually a custom colorway that Oink dyed up for us, based on Basquiat's Two Faces on Gold, if you know that painting.
Yeah, yeah.
It's my favorite Basquiat, which is the sort of thing an insufferable person says, and I'm aware that that's not fun at parties, but it is my favorite. So they dyed that.
Who cares?
I'm just like, what a snob.
They haven't talked to me. Don't bring me to a party.
Well, that would be fun.
That's what
Oh,
I
yeah.
So I hope when you're down from your mountains, you can make some time to drop in and chat with us in one of our classes, Frank.
Oh, is it online? It's a Zoom
No,
class?
but I can zoom you in.
Oh, okay, sure. When do you meet?
Sundays from 3 to 4:30 Pacific.
All right.
We'll chat, but I'm sure they would love to say hello.
Let's chat and decide when it happens. I have a slideshow I can show you some pictures of where I am.
It's multimedia presentation day.
Yes. This was the ride up.
Oh,
wow.
It's
See it?
How
beautiful.
nice.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, that sky is just gorgeous too.
it's amazing, that is.
I was trying to drive slow.
Just
Well, I was
beautiful.
Ah,
Mm.
wow.
And I was
that's
snapping
pretty.
pictures along the way.
Mm. Oh,
This was when I first got to the cabin that night.
Well, you look like one of us in the north here.
Yeah.
You
It
look
was-
like you're at an Antarctic expedition.
Or
This
one of
is
my
when it was
neighbors.
12 degrees inside the cabin.
Oh, no.
Oh, my word.
And I had just finished lugging my luggage up the hill to the cabin, and I was just about half dead.
And they don't have people to fix that?
No, this is everybody on his own.
Uh,
Actually,
my
a lot of the other guys helped me out a lot with some of the more strenuous things, but it didn't happen for that case. Anyway,
Oh,
here is what backyard looks like. Isn't that lovely?
Oh,
With the
nice.
snow.
Hmm.
And here's the group sitting around knitting.
Oh my
All
God.
right, there you go.
Everybody.
And that's just another picture of some of the men.
Oh, it looks like a comfortable space, though. How fun.
Yes, we all sit in a circle all together and
They
enjoy
never
just
wear
knitting.
shoes. Why are they always off with the shoes?
Um, they don't want to track snow through the lodge.
Ah, I see that on the men's knitting retreat up in New York
Oh.
too. None of them are all wearing socks. That's it.
I don't wear shoes indoors.
No?
Mm-mm.
yeah, I don't wear shoes indoors either, but
I don't either. Well,
If I saw a bunch of people wearing shoes, I would feel like, why are they all keeping their shoes?
Okay.
I figured it was so they could show off their hand-knit socks.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I thought, you know.
I visited Kathy overnight and her husband Roland when I first got here, and then she brought me up to the retreat. But we also made a side trip to, was it Longmont Yarn Store
long shot.
and
Yeah.
Yarn Shop? Yes, Longmont Yarn Shop. And yesterday, 4 of the men chose to go to Longmont Yarn Shop.
Yeah.
And they always go to do an outage to what do you call it? An out, not an outage.
Outage?
An outing.
Outing.
An outing. They do an outing to a yarn store. And I was just too exhausted. I couldn't make it. I had to take a nap. It's tough being at 6,000 feet. It's
Yeah.
it's
The elevation is
Hard to breathe.
challenging. Mhm.
yeah, very challenging. So
Yeah.
what do you do? Are there classes or do you just sit around and knit?
well, sometimes they have presentations by different people. And in fact, one year I did a presentation of the Phrancko Sweater. But this year, because the group was small, they just decided, let's just sit around and knit. And the only thing that was organized was that trip to the yarn store.
All right. Right.
So we just sit around and knit and all day long, all evening long. And it's a really funny group. They tell lots of stories that are really funny.
Oh, that's good.
Have a lot of them been before? So
Nice
did you know
time
them
hanging.
beforehand?
This is my 3rd time here. And there were 2 people I had not met at earlier times. But I guess the other 7 I knew
You knew.
from previous visits.
That's nice.
One of these days I'll go to a retreat.
Have you
There
never
was,
been, Sumner?
I have never been to a knitting retreat.
Oh. I got to go to the one in Portland for TKGA a year and a half ago. And that was really nice. It was
Oh,
more
that's
kind of like, I
fun.
guess, a little bit of a conference. There was like 50 of us and they had
That was a
specific
beautiful
classes.
hotel.
I've been
It
trying to
was
get up
gorgeous.
to
It was a lovely place.
Yeah, I saw the pictures. That was a gorgeous hotel. I would love to do that, but I love to travel. I love to travel. And I would feel bad like just spending that kind of money and like leaving the husband at home, you know?
Oh, no, I
Because-
took Jerry.
Yeah, Chuck,
I mean,
I
he
don't
kind of,
know.
he does this car stuff that he wanted to do and go places. And so he just did stuff while I was doing stuff during the day, and it was fine.
Yeah, Chuck would go. I mean, it'd be fine with it. I just, yeah, it's like the TKGA one in Portland. I mean, that's about what I spent to go to Korea,
Mm.
Oh, wow.
you know?
Hmm.
So I don't know. I just weigh it of, but no, I'll go one of these days.
Because they're having one, it's somewhere more back east this year. The one in, I
Charlotte.
don't know where it is. Is it Charlotte, North Carolina?
Yeah,
No, really, I have family in Charlotte. When is it?
I think it's in
Is it-
May.
is-
Or-
is it
no,
already-
it's in,
No,
no,
it's in the fall.
October. Yeah, October or
Mhm.
November, that's right. They have another, not a retreat, but a online course, but that's in
Yeah,
May,
the
I think.
online thing is in early
April. The online
April?
one is in
Okay.
I'll
April.
have to look it up,
Mhm.
because if it's Charlotte, I'll just send Chuck to his brother's and I'll just go enjoy the retreat.
Oh, you should go. You should go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
think
would
they're
be easy.
having Patty Lyons, and I'm trying to think who the other teacher is. I
Oh,
can't think of the other person.
I don't know Patty Lyons, but that's, yeah, that would be fun. I'll have to look into that.
Look it up and see what you think.
Yeah, I worked on my blocking report, Cindy. I'm really happy with how
Mhm.
it's coming along. And then,
I'm glad. It only took me months and months, and I hated mine for forever. Until I
well,
got
and then
it
I
done,
gotta
and then
work
it's
on
like,
swatching.
okay, now I like it.
Because,
It's interesting, but I didn't feel up to the task.
yeah, I'm not feeling up to my swatching yet because of the Norwegian method.
Mhm.
But I'm getting there. It's becoming very even.
Well, that's good. That's what you
Like with
want.
anything, it's practice, right? So
Mhm.
I'm not rowing out on larger needles, so I'm okay with that.
That is good. That's what you
I'm
want.
impressed that my edges are so much better with it, and I've been knitting crappy edges for 30 years, right? So
Itsy crappy edges is just tension stuff.
yeah,
So
and, well,
it's
and
like
it's
if
just
you
that
if you
one
get the
salvage
tension, then
stitch.
it fixes it all.
Yeah, and then your mattress stitching a seam, it doesn't. But you need to be better than that to be in the masters, So
Well, you're getting there.
yeah, I will get there.
I mean,
Things
and
gotta
geez,
work.
you can do Argyle socks. You're ahead of me.
Yeah, I love Argyles. I would like to put another pair together because they're just so nice. Now that I'm doing them on zeros, Jenny,
It'll take a
you
little
thought
bit
I missed
longer.
the dig, didn't you today? Didn't you? Yeah.
Did
Love
you,
Jenny.
did anyone check out the TKGA meeting in January? There was a presentation on tension in Fair Isle knitting. It was
Yeah, I
really
watched that.
good,
It was really good. It was
Yeah.
really, really good.
but it applies to all knitting really, but
It really does.
yeah.
And it was
It was
something that
on the-
Suzanne had talked about, about how you separate your stitches as you're
Bob-
doing.
Bob Clark
Yeah.
wants to say hi.
Hi, how we doing?
Cool. Cool. This is the weekly meeting of the Phrancko Sweater Knitters.
Excellent. Wow, that's so cool. Have a great day, guys.
You too.
Bye.
You guys
Nice
keep
meeting you. Have
warm.
fun.
stay warm.
No knitting injuries.
So what were
It
you
was so
saying?
funny. I had a serious knitting injury, like serious. I was teaching a knitting class of left-handed knitters. And I went to kneel down to get really close and pop my knee. I needed to have surgery.
Oh my
And
no.
my
Oh,
big
ooh.
joke my big joke is that it was a knitting injury.
Wow. I thought you were gonna tell me that one of the ladies stabbed you in the eye or something with.
Oh no, I had to have the cartilage all carved out
Oh,
around my
no.
knee and everything. Oh, it was so painful. Knitting. Yeah. It can happen. Be careful. Kathy, you were gonna say something?
Oh, I was just wondering, I was just trying to remember what they were talking about before.
Feral tension.
So in the
Yeah,
Fair
sorry, I
tension,
interrupted you.
Oh, that's right.
what they were doing is that as you work the stitches, that you spread your stitches out on the right hand needle always, so that they really are spread out as at gauge. You're not like scrunching them up, but that you move them out. And Ron's questioning because he knits like that automatically. I've watched him knit.
Like, what am I supposed to be doing?
Well, you spread your stitches out on the right hand needle. You don't like jam them up.
Oh, no.
For Forever Mine, it was like jammed up on the right hand side. Well, then that gets your tension wearer. And specifically for Fair Isle, but also even for any other knitting, the space between the stitches as well as the distance around the needle is what makes the shape or the length of that exact stitch and sets your tension. So if sometimes if you're knitting with your needles far apart and you're really stretching them, that's going to be different from if they always stay the same distance in gauge apart. And so she was talking about that, and it was really quite cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I guess I
you can go to the
that,
TK
so.
you can go to the TKGA website and watch it. It's still available. They leave it till pretty close before the next meeting.
And Sumner, Patty,
Yeah.
you were saying you don't know Patty Lyons, but she has a great video on how to tighten up, how to make your edge stitches look neat and not have that wonky loose stitch.
Okay. Yeah, I was having every other row be tight.
Yes, she talks about that.
So it's so funny now with Norwegian knitting. I don't know how close you can see this. Even on a sock heel, it is so incredibly even.
It's just perfect. Yeah.
It's just perfect. And it literally was just changing to Norwegian style. I didn't even try to do that.
You mean the Arnie and Carlos Norwegian style?
Well, Norwegian style, but Arnie and Kyle do something that's Norwegian, yes, but
the Norwegian pearl and so forth.
I was doing that before I even, but it's Arnie and Carlos do it, yes.
Okay. Huh.
Because
but it solved that problem that I couldn't solve another way. Like I tried a lot of swatches a couple of years ago to correct my salvage edge, and I just frustrated, so stopped trying. And then I picked up Norwegian knitting seriously a month or two ago, within the last 2 months, and it automatically just corrected it.
So what was causing it was probably like the disparity between your knits and your pearls.
What I think
there was some little difference between the knits.
The first stitch, because I was a flicker. Now that I noticed that I'm not flicking, I realized when I'm knitting my traditional English way, my finger was automatically pulling that stitch, which pulled tight the stitch below. And it was like, there it is. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I could, but it was almost like it was habit. It was such an ingrained habit that it was very difficult to pick out where it was that I was making the mistake. In all my swatches. So
it's little teeny tiny things that we do that make a difference.
Yeah,
And
and that was that
so it
little
is,
tiny
it's hard to
thing.
realize.
I
geez,
was
don't know what it was.
automatically, to flick that second stitch, I was pulling the stitch below.
Mhm.
And if I don't do that, I get a nice salvage edge.
Did it
There you
does,
go.
yeah. Mhm. Who knew?
Yeah, who knew? I'm glad I figured it out. And now I feel more confident that I could actually go into the first level and
You'll be
get
fine.
those swatches
You'll
out.
be
I think
fine.
I'll be okay.
Mhm. I can't speak to how you'll do on level 2. I feel like I'll be stuck there for forever. So I can't speak to that one. Oh,
Well, I
What are
do
you
good
stuck
Fair
on,
Isle.
Cindy,
Well,
what are you stuck on level 2?
I'm still struggling with the vertical balance for cables and lace. And I finished the lace ones. I went ahead and did it as good as I understand it. But then for the vertical balance, I'm doing a braided rib out of Alice Starmore's book of like a 3 braid rib. And I think that it is, but it's like, I'm confusing, I think sometimes, balance with symmetry. And it's not exactly going to be the same of the way that is, because the top of the design looks different from the bottom of the design. So it's going to, I don't know. So that's where I'm like totally confused.
I see. One thing to realize, and this may have nothing to do with what you're struggling with, but one thing to realize is when you cross 2 stitches in cabling, the cross actually occurs at the bottom of the 2 stitches.
Right. And so it
And
shows
so
up
count that row as being above
as
the
a-
cross.
right. Yeah, and like it
You
shows
think
as
you
like
think
a,
the
think of it as
cross
a
is
knit
on
row.
that row, but it's actually below. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I know that part. So
I don't understand
Well,
that exactly.
When you make a cable crossing, when you do the mechanical crossing, the stitches you've just knit don't cross one another. They're perfectly in line. The 4 stitches, if you're doing a 2x2 cable, even if you put these out of order, those 4 are bam, 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 in a line in the order you knit them. What you've moved is the stitches below them. So visually, when you work that cable crossing, it appears visually to be on the row below where you worked it.
but it's not there.
Okay.
And what I've noticed is that there seem to be 2 general ways that people think about how knitting emerges from their needles. Either the thing that you've just put on your needle is a stitch that you've worked this round or row, or the thing that you've worked into is a stitch that you've worked this row, if you catch the distinction.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are 2 ways to visualize your knitting. I tend to think of the stitch I worked as the stitch head that I just moved to the front or back when I knit or purled. I don't think of the stitches on my needles as the stitches I've worked, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So but if you imagine them that way, if the stitches you put on the needle are the stitches you just worked, it can feel very wrong to think, well, my cable crossing is below that by rows. So the row where you work the cable crossing will appear to be a row of plain knitting.
Right.
Right.
And one of the ways that I looked at it to actually visualize that, because I was getting confused. I get confused about all sorts of stuff. I'm dyslexic. I will work the row in a different color and then continue on in the regular stuff and then work a row in a different color. And no, I'm not turning it in that way, Frank. You don't have to worry. But that way I could tell. And even I did it like when I was doing cast-ons and bind-offs to see, it's like, okay, how much is really the cast-on? Because sometimes you think on it's just this little chainy thing. It's like, no, there's actually, with a regular long tail cast-on, there's actually a row of knitting above that. And the same thing when you're casting off.
Yeah.
So doing those things in kind of like in a different color, so I could see really what was the stitch, helped me better understand the stitch anatomy.
Yeah. I had a dear friend of mine who was very, very good at color work. And when she would do Fair Isle, she would sometimes cast on the two colors that she's going to work.
Yeah.
And she always said her first cast on row was her first row of knitting. And I could never figure that out.
No,
but then her next row would be row 2. I'm like, okay, then, so yeah, I still struggle with that one.
Am I focused?
You are focused.
Yes, you are. Do you want me to remove it?
And dead handsome.
There, okay, done.
Sumner, that comes important when you want to count how many rows you've knitted.
Yeah.
And so the question is usually raised as, do you count the stitches on the needles when you're counting rows?
Okay.
And it is, in fact, when you look at your knitted swatch, if it's stockinette, let's just talk about stockinette. If you look at the stockinette swatch, if you count every row, if you've knitted 3 rows, you're going to see 3 rows beneath your needles. And that's because the first row that you look at, that you see, that looks like a knitted row, was actually created when you cast on.
Right.
And so you either skip that row and count the ones that are on the needles, or you count that row and don't count the one on the needles to see how many rows you've counted.
Okay.
But be consistent, whatever you do.
Yeah, so I mean, I just count the V's, right?
Don't count
the V's.
Yeah, count the V's, but don't count. If you count all the V's, you're counting the row that you cast on.
Right.
And so you don't count you don't count
them
that are on the needles.
That's good advice. Thank you. That's good advice. Clears that up.
On the topic of the way we visualize and think about things, I love when I get a student who has a different native language or speaks 2 languages and has learned knitting in the other. I had a student that I started teaching last week. It all blurs together. Her native language is Farsi. And so she has a hard time remembering to call what we call knits and pearls. In Farsi, they call making a knit stitch knitting under, and they call making a pearl stitch knitting over.
Oh,
wow.
So, so she'll ask me, wait, am I supposed to be knitting under or over right now? You're making ribbing, so over.
Yeah, that could be a.
She just translates it as a calc into English, and just so when she makes ribbing, she makes knit one under, knit one over, knit one under, knit one over.
That actually is quite descriptive of what it is that you're doing, though.
Yeah,
the
yarn is under your work or it's over your work,
and it is. That's really quite cool.
Yeah, Roxanne Richardson has been doing this history of knitting project over many decades, and she has gone so far back that she's gone into patterns before they even kind of knew how to purl. I think that's amazing to me.
That was a technological innovation.
A technological innovation from socks from the 1500s. They did not purl. I think that's amazing to me, because we always think of it just it's a reverse knit stitch. Yeah, but they didn't do it.
So what did they do? They just garter stitched socks?
They just knit. They just knit around.
They knit in the round.
Oh,
they knit in round on very tiny needles, and to change gauge, they would change needle sizes. That they'd go to like a finer needle when it needed to be smaller, or a bigger needle for like if you had big calves.
Yeah, yeah, you didn't have different yarn gauges. You did everything with the needle.
Most every language I've learned knitting vocabulary in has a more sensible way of naming the knit and the purl than English does.
Yeah.
Pearl means nothing.
It means nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
Which is to say, all language is arbitrary. Nothing means anything. But yeah, pearl, we don't even know what exactly we were referring to when it started being used.
I know, because that was not anything I saw when I did the history of knitting. It's like, where did the word pearl come from?
Historical linguists are still, they have like 3 guesses, but it's not something that was discussed in a lot of written work. So the corpus of sources for discussing textiles are very, very scarce. So things like knitting above and knitting below make sense.
Yeah.
Or
right.
stitches and reverse stitches in Spanish. But in English, we have this word, pearl. And I'm not much for the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which I'll tell you about some other time if you'd like. The hypothesis that you can't think of things that your language doesn't have words for, which is nonsense. But the is purling difficult for some new knitters to wrap their minds around only because we're speaking English, so it seems like something very different?
Right, but it's a knit and a reverse knit, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, a front knit and a back knit. That's
You're
all
knitting
it is.
over, you're knitting under.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
But we purl. And I often make the argument that we think of knitting and crochet as 2 different things because we are speaking English. In other languages, they're the same verb. They're often the same verb as weaving. There's just one verb for making fabric, and they're all thought of as the same thing. So when I help customers in Spanish, they will ask me, what translates this? Is this knitted with 2 needles, or is this knitted with a hook?
Oh, interesting.
Would be the direct translation. Is this knitted with 2 needles, or is this knitted with a hook?
Right.
That's knitted with 2 needles. That's knitted with a hook.
Yeah.
But it's all the same stuff.
Interesting. Yeah.
Sorry, I got caught up in the center of my linguistics and textile.
No, it's amazing. And like,
but I thought
Roxanne was doing a thing. Where did stockings come from? What makes it a stocking versus a sock?
Right.
You know, that's wow.
Semantics. That's my least favorite thing is when people shut down an argument by saying it's just semantics. Yeah, semantics, the part of your language system that makes it mean anything.
Yeah, right.
Semantics.
Yeah.
Kathy, if you spotlight me, I will show what I've got on my hoodie.
Oh.
We've ordered the yarn for the hoodie that I will be publishing. It is not this yarn.
Yay.
It is this yarn, but it's in a different color. This is Cascade 220 Superwash Aran. And I'm not going to show you the hood because it's way too big and I need to do it again. The first one was way too small. This one's way too big. But anyway, I've got the hood. I've done the body all the way down to, I'm starting the kangaroo pocket, if I can find it here.
Nice.
I just started it. See, it's double layers now.
Oh, all right. There you go.
Yep, I see that.
One layer is going to be on top and the other.
I love that look.
beneath.
Yeah.
Frank.
It's knitted right in. Yes.
Just as a nice diversity and inclusion suggestion, if you can include a very large hood as part of the pattern, that is very good for people who have large natural hair, who often do not get accommodated in that way.
Well, if I tried this on, you would see it's absolutely ridiculous. No,
really,
no, when you pull it forward, it came all the way down to here.
Sure. But no, people with like natural black hair often have very big hair and hoodies do not fit them.
I see.
Yeah.
Well,
it might not be a bad idea to include
It's a
the
real
option.
diversity and inclusion thing that has been coming up in design circles lately.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad thing. I love how that looks. I might get Cascade 220 and get a boucle other Phrancko. It would be like me to put it in my stash.
Yeah, I like how it's working up.
What is the yardage on the Aaron? How much different is it than the regular worsted?
Let's see, it's 150 yards.
Oh, so it's button up against chunky.
Yeah, versus what, 220?
Yeah.
And it's odd because it's labeled as a medium 4,
Yeah.
which is weird because it's called Aaron,
Yeah.
but medium 4 is worsted. So
Well,
I guess it's
isn't
considered a heavy worsted. I don't know.
isn't 4 worsted Aaron, and then the next
Yeah,
is
but
I
150 yards over 100
150
grams
is right on the
seems like a
other one. Yeah,
bulky yarn to me.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
like about that yarn? Frank,
It knits up at 16 stitches for 4 inches, 4 stitches per inch.
Just
And
incredibly fast.
it makes a thick fabric, and I wanted my hoodie to be a thick fabric.
yeah.
I mean, not super thick, but it's thicker than most
Mhm.
sweaters. Certainly
Nice.
thicker than this one, which is a sport weight.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, it's time, but how could I have forgotten? I got my mother's sweater blocked. Beep, beep, beep.
Oh, yay, well done.
Have to take
You
it
can
to her.
unspotlight me, Kathy, and spotlight him.
There you go.
How
Look
can I
at
forget
that.
that I had another sweater to show you?
Wow.
So this is about
Oh,
6 inches shorter than mine. There's mine. Now I get to be twinsies with my mother.
She will be
Wow, there
so
you go.
happy.
Wow.
oh, isn't
That
that
is gorgeous.
wonderful?
Mine is about
Nice.
6
That's
inches
fun.
longer than hers, but I'm about 6 inches taller than her. And
Love
Oh, that's fun.
it
Yeah.
just,
That is so cute.
once it blocks
She'll
out,
love it.
I love this.
She'll love it.
I love this. And like, I put it on, it's like, oh, maybe I should keep this for me and have 2 different lengths. Unequivocally, no.
That's fun.
That was not an option.
Well, it is that time again, folks.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye. Bye.
Take
Love
it
you
easy,
all.
everyone. Have a nice
Yeah.
week.
Warm,
Enjoy the rest
bye.
of your
Yeah.
retreat.
Yeah.
Nice to see you all.
Yeah.
Bye,
Enjoy.
Nancy.
Jenny.
Bye,
Night, night.
Bye.
I
Get
can
to
do
bed.
it.